Hi, traders. Welcome to another broadcast of Live Trading Talk with Oliver Velez. My name is Oliver Velez, of course, and I am your trader for life. Well, first of all, I'd like to wish everyone out there a belated Merry Christmas. I trust that everyone had a wonderful time during their holiday celebration and are continuing to have a wonderful time. We're certainly now moving into one of the most important celebrations of the year in this hemisphere, at least, the New Year. And I wish every single listener, every single trader, a very healthy, prosperous, and productive New Year. Now, here I am, actually on a Sunday evening, sitting on my patio overlooking my pool, as opposed to conducting this broadcast live, because as many of you are aware, I had a scheduled broadcast last Wednesday that had a technical glitch, a serious one actually. I conducted a 90-minute broadcast live, and oh, what a broadcast it was, by the way. I conducted that event or broadcast live, but absolutely to myself. Much to my chagrin, I found out subsequent to the broadcast that not a single soul was able to hear me. In addition to that, I further found out that the 90 minutes of content that I delivered last Wednesday did not get archived. Now, I was a tiny bit heartbroken, a tiny bit, but I decided that I would actually redo the event because the topic of drills and how effective they can be for traders in the now, almost immediately, was so important to me that it was a topic that I could not afford to miss. Drills are used as an invaluable training tool in many industries and in many specialized activities. As far as I'm concerned, they are an indispensable tool for the developing trader. And what I would like to do during my talk this evening with you is to share not only the reasons why drilling is so important for the developing trader, so integral to his progress. I would like to actually share some of the very same drills and techniques I've used over the past 20 years with certain groups of my traders to help elevate their level of sophistication and acumen as traders. So today, while this may not be conducted live, I am going to spend roughly 90 minutes, more or less, going over this extraordinarily important topic for you. So sit back, relax, depending upon the time at which you're listening to me. Grab a glass of wine or a beer or a soda, a cup of tea or coffee, or nothing. But sit back, put yourself in a very relaxing mode, and try to take in one of the most valuable topics I've delivered on this show up until this point. Let us begin. Drills, traders. Very well crafted drills, very well developed drills are amongst some of the most important training tools in existence today. And they're important training tools across a variety of different industries and skills, particularly industries and skills that call for delivering a specific action consistently the same way every single time under situations of duress, stress, and problematic environments. Now think about this for a moment. It is very easy to do an act the same way every single time when there is no stress, when your environment is comfortable and relaxing, when there are no challenges or obstacles that are in the way of you and the action that you need to conduct. Drills, however, become extraordinarily important for activities that need to be conducted with precision and almost excellence under scenarios of stress, whether that stress be psychological or emotional, or whether your environment is chaotic at the time, but you have to deliver a specific action the same way, whether your environment is safe, whether your environment is chaotic, whether your environment is under duress, whether you are under duress, whether you are emotional, whether you are psychologically rocked. This action must be conducted the same way, at the same level of precision and excellence, irrespective of your current environment. And when you are in a position where you are responsible for conducting acts of precision in environments that present obstacles for delivering that action, conducting that action consistently, drills become very important. And they become very important for a variety of reasons. The number one reason drills are important in these scenarios is because they help eliminate the need for thought. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. I want you to give this some thought. Even though we're talking about an activity or a practice that eliminates thought. But we don't want to eliminate thought now. I want you to apply some very deep thinking and analysis to what I'm about to tell you. Thought during these moments, thought is the enemy. Thought and analysis, that pause, that attempt to figure something out, to apply reason during a life or death moment where you have milliseconds to act and respond, is your enemy. Drills are designed to gradually eliminate the thought that sits between the call for your action and the action itself. Let's, as an example, take the military. A lot of people may not be aware of this fact, but I was a U.S. Marine. And I can tell you firsthand that what we did 80+% of the time was drill and drill and drill. And then after we drilled some more. My life as a Marine was dominated by drilling because we were trained to be the first online in any warlike situation. We were trained that we were trained and taught that the execution of your specific skill that we're going to train you to conduct, the execution of that must be so pure and exact that you should be able to do it in your sleep without any process of thought whatsoever. And so what the drilling was designed to do was to eliminate the gap between the command and the action that the command called for. And in the beginning of our drilling sessions, obviously when we first arrived, we were absolutely a mess. Unorganized, not in sync, horrible. Over time, what the drilling did was tighten our unit up. And when the drill instructor issued a command, we executed the command. But in the beginning, there was thinking involved. There was analysis involved. There was a processing of the command. There was a mental picture that would come up of what that command was and what it should look like. And then the attempt to execute the command. Left, right, halt, about face, salute, And over time, as we drilled and drilled and drilled, the space between the drill instructor's command and the action that the command called for, that gap got narrower and narrower and narrower until at a certain point it was imperceptible to the human eye. The gap. There's always a gap. But we were so tight that the gap between the instructors or the drill instructor's command and our platoon's executing of that command seemed simultaneously. The gap was so small that it seemed like they were one. Drills create a state in the executor of an action, a state in which thought or analysis or the attempt to figure something out or to apply reason before an action is completely eliminated. And believe it or not, this is the highest state from which an action, especially an action that is born from a stressful situation, it is the highest state from which an action can be born. And when the action comes from a state that is not the result of analysis, that is not the result of a thought, that is not the result of figuring something out, that is not from the result of reason, that action is spontaneous and possesses a power and certainty that other actions simply do not have. And so the military understands this very, very thoroughly, which is why a predominant part of their training is through drills. Their motto is that you are not the thinker. You are not supposed to think. You are supposed to act. You are supposed to execute. And you're supposed to act and execute instantaneously. And when that action is not instantaneous, it means that you have inserted something between the command and your action. Something sits there in between the command and your action, and the action is no longer pure, instantaneous, and spontaneous. And therefore it lacks power, and therefore it will lack consistency. You see, when you're in a situation where whether or not bullets are flying over your head, whether or not someone's in front of you trying to snuff your life from your human body, if your action has to be the same, whether there's no one there posing a threat or whether there's a lot of people there posing a threat, it doesn't matter. Your action, your skill, your job must be executed the same way every single time. When you are called to be at your best, no matter what the situation, drills are one of the most effective ways to get you there. And the military understands this. We as children, I know I may be dating myself at this particular point, but we as children, I as a child remember when we used to drill in school. We had fire drills, and for no apparent reason whatsoever, the fire alarm would go off in our school, and we were trained to line up the same way during each one of these fire drills every single time. That we were not taught to line up randomly. We were taught to line up. We had a specific spot on a taped line on the floor. And on that spot on that piece of tape was written each student's name. And when that fire alarm went off, we were drilled to go to our spot on that chalked line or on that taped line. And then after we were appropriately lined up, we single filed out of the classroom onto the New York City streets. to wait out the fire alarm. And we went over this drilling for years. In fact, I'm old enough to remember the drills of the students having to duck underneath their desks in the event that the Russians or God knows who else would fly over the United States with a bomb situation. What being under a desk would do to protect us is beyond me, but we drilled that. And that when a certain different alarm went off, that alarm meant that you got out of your chair and you crawled underneath your desk. And then another alarm was a fire alarm. And we went to our chalked spots on the floor and then single filed out of the classroom onto the streets. And so what were these drills designed to do for us as children? They were designed over time to eliminate the need for thinking, to eliminate the need during a stressful situation like a fire, to actually wonder what to do, to try to figure out, where should I go? Which exit should I leave? Where should we congregate? Whom should I listen to? Who is in charge? Should we all just chaotically run out of the room if there's a fire? Or no, should we single file out of the room? And so these drills were designed to eliminate the need for having to figure something out in the most difficult time to figure something out. During chaos, during a fire, during war, during a fight, during a bomb, during any duressful situation, there is often no time to go through this elongated, cumbersome mental process of trying to figure out all of the moving pieces at that moment and to come out of that situation with the right conclusion. So we practiced the right conclusion over and over and over again until we could do it in our sleep. We could do it walking backwards. And so drills are important for this very reason. They help us perform at our absolute best the same way every single time, irrespective of our environment or irrespective of what is going on around us and with us at that particular moment. That what drills do effectively accomplish is to eliminate the need for thought. Now, many who follow my work understand this. They understand that I'm a very big proponent of action coming from no thought. That it is my view that when an action follows thinking, that it does not come from a proper foundation or base. Because if you really think about this, the need for thought only exists when you don't know. And I've often used this a very similar metaphor to drive this point home. That if you are sitting next to your daughter and someone walks by and says, you guys look just alike. Is that your daughter? Is thought necessary? Let's hope it's not. Thought is not necessary when you know. In fact, when you know, thought can't exist. There is no space for thought to know in the state of knowing. Knowing is complete. It is absolute. There is no room for another item in the state called knowing. Not knowing is an incomplete state. There are holes in the state we call not knowing. Not knowing, another word for not knowing, can be confusion. When you are confused, there is something missing. When you know, it is complete. There is nothing missing. And there is no space available for thought. Thought can only fill a void. Thought can only come into existence when there is space for thought to fit into. And When there is space for thought to fit into, it means that thought is coming into existence in an incomplete state. Confusion or not knowing means that something is missing. It is incomplete. And in those spaces of incompleteness, thought arises. If this is your cell phone sitting right next to you, the same cell phone you bought 8 months ago that you might be considering upgrading right now, but if that cell phone is sitting next to you and someone says, "Is that my phone?" or "Is that your phone?" there is no thought necessary. "Is this your arm, sir?" there is no thought necessary. Are you Oliver Velez? Let me think. Am I Oliver Velez? Well, I woke up this morning and I was Oliver Velez. When I arrived here, I was Oliver Velez, and I don't think, no, that's process of figuring out, that process of thinking, that process called analyzation, analyzing the situation to come out of that analysis with a firm conclusion. That is not necessary when you know. And I don't want my traders acting in the market with my capital when they don't know. So I want them acting only when thought is not necessary. I want them acting when thought is impossible to actually exist. I want them only acting with my capital when they know. Most of the world out there is acting with their own family's money, and what a shame, throughout moments in which they absolutely know nothing. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to analyze and come up with a conclusion and then bet their money. But remember, the moment you need a thought means that you are confused. You see, here is where thought is necessary. Your daughter is at a distance that is almost not quite perceptible to your vision. She is walking at a distance with someone that looks similar to your daughter as well. Same height, same color of hair, and similar clothing. But your eyes can't make out the two figures very clearly because of the distance. And so you squint your eyes a little bit and someone says, Are you looking for your daughter? Is that one of them walking toward us now? And you say, I'm not quite sure. I think so. Well, which one, sir? I'm not quite sure. I think it might be the one on the right. They look very similar, but the one on the right walks a little bit more like my daughter than the one on the left. But until they get closer, I can't really be sure. Process of analyzation. This one walks a little bit more like my daughter than this one. That one might be a tiny bit thinner than my daughter, and my daughter's a little bit chunkier than that one, I think. Thinking and this process of figuring something out to come up with a conclusion means that you don't know, means that you are confused. And I understand that our society places such a great importance on thinking. We even say that to our children. Think, son, think, please. For Christ's sake, think. But I'm here to tell you that thinking is highly overrated in our society. In fact, thinking, the process of thought, is a very primitive act. That action that is sprung from thought is weak action. And that action that is sprung from knowing is powerful. It is certain. It is sure. It is exact. And it hits the bullseye. Life respects action that comes from certainty. Have you ever watched a person walk with purpose? That they know there's something in their walk, that the way their heel hits the ground with purpose is different that they know exactly where they're going. There is no hesitation in any step, that every movement of their body is efficient. It is walking with knowing, in the state of knowing. I know exactly where my office is. I know exactly what time I need to be there. I know, and the walking springs from that knowing. Now, contrast that to someone with a piece of paper in their hands looking in a building that they have no idea, they don't know, it's unfamiliar with them. They're looking for a specific number, an office number, and they're looking down at the paper and they're looking up at doors and they're turning their body to the left, they're turning their body to the right, and they might even be moving forward as they do this. But that form of walking, that form of moving forward while they're thinking, while they're analyzing, while they're processing, while they're trying to figure something out, communicates beyond any doubt that they're confused. There is no certainty in each one of their steps. Their body language communicates glaringly so that they're lost. Most novices believe that you're supposed to think and analyze and process as a market participant. And this could not be further from the truth. And drills are so important because they eliminate the very thing that I'm saying should not exist in your trading. Thinking, figuring out, guessing, analyzing, supposing. Drills eliminate the need for thought. They eliminate the need for thought in the soldier. They eliminate the need for thought in the airline pilot who drills under certain duressful situations in the airline simulator over and over and over again, to the point where they could actually flip on the various and appropriate switches in the absolute dark, with the simulator rocking violently to the left and to the right with absolutely no lights. They can flip on the appropriate switches. They are drilled to the point of being able to go through a series of very precise actions, irrespective of their environment, whether that environment is peaceful and they're gliding through the air without a single problem, or whether they are going through the turbulence of their life. The actions must be the same. And because they must be the same, irrespective of your environment, drills are the way they get there. There is no other way. Any activity that calls for precision, any activity that calls for exactness, any activity that calls for your higher self to be your higher self every single time requires drills for you to get there. Because we all know that it takes a lot more than knowing what to do. We, as a people, as a human race, most of us know exactly what to do in most situations in our lives. But knowing what to do is no guarantee that you do it, is it? How many of you know what to do in a specific trade, like cut your loss? And despite the fact that you know it, despite the fact that you know that the right action is to kill this thing, despite the fact that you know that you should not be in this trade, despite the fact that you know that you have made an error and should actually just rip the Band-Aid off, despite the fact that you know that you should cut it and move on, how many of you don't? How many people in life know exactly what to do but can't do it, won't do it? Knowing what to do is not the answer. It is part of the answer. Knowing what to do is no guarantee that you'll do it. People spend a lifetime taking seminars and reading books about what to know. We have what to know up the wazoo. The problem is not knowing. The problem is doing it. But yet, when you're unable to do it, you move on to the next course to teach you what to know, as if that's the answer. The answer is almost never in the knowing. In today's technological world, internet-driven world, we have knowing up the wazoo. We have too much knowing. Most people know exactly what to do. Most people know what is right to do. The question is, are they man enough? Are they woman enough? Are they decent enough? Are they disciplined enough? Are they trained enough to actually do it, especially when it's hard to do, especially when obstacles are in your way of actually doing the act that you're supposed to do? Will you rise to the occasion and do what you know you're supposed to do when every force in the world appears to be against you? When there are 8 different obstacles standing in your way of doing what you're supposed to do? When it's stressful to do what you're supposed to do? When it's psychologically difficult to do what you're supposed to do? Will you do it? This is what drills help you with. The difficulty in doing what you're supposed to do comes from thought. When you eliminate thinking, when you eliminate the need for analysis, which paralyzes action, you cannot be acting and analyzing at the same time. Action either comes before analysis or true action comes after analysis. But they cannot coexist. As much as it might appear to be the case from your human eye, they cannot coexist. Action does not possess thought, or another word for thought is analysis. Action does not possess analysis. It comes before analysis, the purest form of action actually, or the second-rate action comes after analysis. Why do I say action after analysis is second-rate and less powerful, less effective? Because it's going through a filter. That filter is your nonsensical, analytical thinking process. And if thinking was so great and your analysis was so great, why hasn't it produced better results for you? How is your analysis working for you right now? How is your thinking process working for you right now? How is your attempt to figure things out working for you right now? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Only action that stems from knowing works. Only action that stems from the lack of the need for thinking, that state that does not need thought, that state that does not need figuring anything out, that state of certainty. Certainty does not need thought. And when your action stems from a state of knowing, from a state of certainty, it is powerful. And life, the market which mirrors life, yields itself to the man or woman who acts from the state of knowing. Now, that doesn't mean that when you act from this state of knowing that every single trait, every single action is going to have a positive result. That's not what we're seeing here. And let's not be ridiculous. This is not Alice in Wonderland. This is not Disney. But we have protectional things to put in place when those scenarios happen, of course. So we're not going there, but we're saying that each time you go out there to risk your capital, and especially my capital, you should be risking it from a state of knowing, not from a state of thought. You should be risking it from a state of certainty. You should be able to rise to the occasion and conduct your action, your buy, your sell, your stop adjustment, your ad, your partial profit take. That each one of those actions should not be a guess, should not be the result of you thinking about something. It should be a result of you knowing something. That's my daughter. That's my cell phone. This is my left arm. This is my watch on my left wrist. No thought necessary. No thought necessary. I am walking now. No thought necessary. I'm going to the kitchen for a glass of water. No thought necessary. We act all day long from states of certainty. But when it comes to our money in the market, we feel that that's not the proper way to act, that we should act from a state of confusion, that we should think about things, and that we should try to figure something out, and that we should process this piece of information and that piece of information. Do you know what the true definition of analyze is? To analyze, the true root definition is to pull apart. To analyze is to pull apart. So whenever you are going through a process of analyzation, you are ripping apart the item that you are analyzing. You're pulling it apart. And after you have pulled it apart, is it still the item that you began analyzing? How can it be? Take a rose, analyze a rose, which means to pull the rose apart. And when you pull a rose apart, figuratively speaking, is it still a rose? No, it is not. Now, action does not come through the process of an analyzation, I should say, until you have put it back together. That is the conclusion part. So first, analyzation is to pull apart. And then if you can picture this in your mind, the action comes after you attempt to put it back together. And then after you put it back together, the assumption is that I now thoroughly understand the thing that I've analyzed and pulled apart, put back together. Now my action can be certain. Who has time for that in a situation where milliseconds are all you have? In a warlike situation where you have to either flip this switch or not. There's no in between. You don't have time for it. Neither is the process all that effective. You have been going through that process most of your life as a market participant, and it has brought you to me. Which is not the greatest sign of all, is it? Well, in one way it is, but in another way, it's not. It means that you're still not there. It means that something's still missing. It means that there is still a healthy amount of ineffectiveness going on in your market decisions, in your market play, your market activity, your trading. And so I know I am digressing just a little bit, but I feel it's necessary to understand this topic at a deeper level, not just for me to randomly go down a list of drills in 15 minutes and end the show, but I wanted to communicate to you traders why drilling is important and what it intrinsically accomplishes for the human individual. It is always at that human level that you want change to occur. You don't want to slap a Band-Aid on something without changing or improving or healing the wound. The Band-Aid is a temporary aid. It does not change the wound, the problem. And so I wanted to go over in a very detailed way the root reason why drilling is so important. And there aren't many people that will explain it to you this way because most people actually don't know it. I know that might sound a tiny bit egotistical, but it's not. It's just simply true. I am not aware of very many people who explain this way. that drilling, the purpose of drilling, is to eliminate the need for thought. And you are the most efficient when you are not thinking. This is what athletes call being in the zone. When an athlete is performing at its highest, at his highest, most efficient state, it is a state without thought. That each movement of the body, each dribble of the ball or what have you, is occurring without analysis. It is in the moment, flowing from pure creativity. When you are analyzing, you cannot be creative. Creativity is devoid of thought. It is in that space called freedom, where thought can exist. A thought is confined. It has boundaries. Creativity is boundless. It has no boundaries. So when a high-performing athlete is in the zone, they are not thinking. They will tell you, in fact, when they come out of the zone and attempt to explain this state that we have come to term the zone, when they are performing and they come out of the zone and attempt to explain it, they say, it was like I wasn't there. It was almost like it wasn't me doing the act. I was the act. And all they're really saying is that they have placed their identification with the thought process. So they're saying thinking is I, that's me. And so it was like thinking wasn't there. It was just the action was there. And I was observing the action. This state can be achieved by the trader as well. If the trader gets to the place of only acting when they know, and this is the magic of drills. There are a battery of drills that you can conduct as a trader that will get you to this place, this thoughtless place, this creative place, this state of absolute certainty, this state of knowing. And from this state, each one of your actions in a trade will be assured to be powerful, certain, precise, on point, and hit the bullseye every single time, irrespective of the market crashing, irrespective of the market shooting to the upside, irrespective of everyone around you being nervous, irrespective of chaos, irrespective of confusion. Your actions will be the same, consistent, precise, dominant, strong, powerful actions every single time. We've just got to get you to that place of knowing. We've got to get you to the place where you are drilled so effectively that you can conduct your actions without the need for thought or thinking. And so now that I have beat this horse to death, and that I hope now, since you understand the magic of what drills accomplish, that I will have your rapt attention as I go down a relatively small list. I have no time for all the drills that I execute, but I'll go down a rather small but powerful list of individual drills that I've used over the past 20 years with my traders to help elevate their level of market play and their level of precise, efficient trading. Let's start there. Hi traders, I am now back in the comfort of my home studio, and you have just listened to what will subsequently become part 1 of my talk on the importance of drills for the developing trader. Now, during part 1, I actually came up with this brilliant idea of breaking this session into 2 broadcasts, simply because I believe there will be extra value to be derived from a live broadcast session. Now, as I explained during part 1, is that this was recorded and done without the benefit of receiving questions on the fly from the listening audience. Now, I know I sort of belabored the point of the importance of what drills accomplish, and I went pretty deeply into that subject. I do understand that the vast majority of you want to cut to the chase and get directly to the drills. But for the benefit of many of my traders who have been honed and trained to appreciate the inner meaning behind what we do, I had to go deeply into that topic. So this upcoming Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I will have a live broadcast that actually does just that, cut to the chase and go one by one into the specific drills, many of which I have used and continue to use on groups of my very own traders. I encourage that if you can make this live broadcast to participate, to contribute in some way, it will be worth your time. We are going to cover things that potentially have the ability to change your trading life forever. So please do your very best to attend. That's this upcoming Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll all receive advance notice. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your trader for life.